Hey folks, it's Frithgar here, how you doing? Welcome back to Farming Simulator 22 here in the pristine, untouched wilderness of the Calmlands. I ended up doing more than sort of one, every other load. Sometimes I'd end up doing quite a bit. I could be on the telehandler most of the day, and it's brilliant because I liked doing that. It essentially meant that I just got more experience doing it, and therefore got better at it still. And so it just kind of keeps looping like that, which is awesome if that's what you want to do. And it is. At the time, that was what I wanted to do. That was really what I wanted to focus on. I wanted to be better at driving, and so I picked up a lot of experience doing that, and then I was able to use later on for doing other things. And I mean, it was the same when I was, I've said before that I drove a combine for a summer, and I did it sort of a little bit extra other times, but the summer that I was driving that combine, the place that I was working, hang on, what do we want? We want to unload bales. We want Y like that, and then we choose where to put them, which is going to just be there on top of the trailer, and down they go. And we got 4,242 euros for those bales. That's fantastic. So we'll reset that one. Out of there. 4,242 euros. Right, this is a really good start. We need something like 19,000 for the corn header for the combine. So we got a long way to go to get the money for the combine. I'm still not entirely sure how we're going to manage that one. I don't want to sell this trailer. Selling this trailer might end up being what we have to do in order to get that header. We've got to get that header for that combine. If we don't, we're going to be in trouble. Now, can I get out of here without that 2CV tank coming along? We're all right there. So, yeah, when I sort of went on to driving the combine, again, they knew there that I didn't particularly like doing the large fields with the dull work. I liked doing the more difficult stuff, anything on hills, that kind of thing. And I had a lot of experience driving on hills by the time I got there anyway, so they were quite happy for me to be the combine driver who did the hill work. Also, the year I got there, they got a brand new combine. Every few years they would sell one of their combines, the oldest one, and then they buy a brand new one. And the year I got there, they bought a brand new one, and they would only have one four-wheel drive combine. So the four-wheel drive combine was actually the older one, and because I was the younger person on the farm, it meant that I was supposed to be driving the old combine anyway. And so this worked out really well in my favor, because the foreman of the estate I was working on, he was the one that got automatic dibs on driving the brand new one, and he wanted the new combine. He also didn't like doing hill work and small bits and stuff like that. He liked doing the long cuts up through the fields. So it worked out well for both of us. I had the older combine that had the four-wheel drive, so if there was a steep bank that needed to be done, I was the one that did it. And that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, yes, I did have an incident. There was only one. I only had one incident with that combine where potentially I could have tipped the combine upside down and possibly hurt myself rather badly. Most likely it would have not been tipping the combine upside down. It would more have just been causing a lot of damage. Fortunately, though, it didn't. Neither one of them happened, and I was able to sort of just maintain control as I went off downhill. I know I've told you this before, but there are some of you that haven't heard it before. So, basically, I was working a really steep bank, and the field we were in had a large flat area at the bottom, and then there was a really steep bank on the side. So we'd gone round the edge, and then we'd cut out a section across the bottom of the bank so that there was plenty of room for me to be able to turn round. The two-wheel drive combine couldn't even get up the hill. It was too steep for it. So that sort of gives you an idea of just how steep that bank was. And you could turn round at the top, but it was still on the bank a bit. So you sort of, it was, you need to put this one back. even though you could turn around at the top of the bank, it was still steep-ish at the top. So even though you were turning, your combine was sort of going onto the side of the hill, which is always a little bit more difficult. It does make things a little bit more tricky when you're turning on a hill. Like, it wasn't as if I could drive up the bank and then find a level area to turn around. There was no level area. That just wasn't a thing. So what I was faced with, yeah, I can't close that one down. Go up the hill, turn round at the top on still a steep bank. So you've got to be careful doing that. You got to be careful turning round on when you're moving over, like as it goes over to the side, because the weight of the grain in the tank can make the combine lean over. And the problem with the combine, it's got these great big tires right here. So as soon as you start to lean over, those tires will compress and you lean over a lot more. And you really got to be aware of that. And I was advised to empty out the combine at the bottom of the hill every single time. I was only getting a quarter of a tank in the combine, and I was advised, don't do it again, don't go for a second run, just empty out after one run, because the weight at the top turning round could be an issue, and also coming back down again. So I did this several times, and then I was looking at the amount that I was getting in there and thinking, yeah, I'm going to do this one more time, just because I don't think that it's going to be that much of an issue. Like, I didn't do this lightly. This wasn't something that was just sort of a spur of the moment. Yes, I was relatively inexperienced, especially working with combines themselves. I'd only had that year. But I knew hills, and I knew enough about what I was doing that it wasn't kind of just an idiotic thing, although it was idiotic in hindsight. I thought, no, I'm not getting, I get up to the top of the hill, I'm not getting any indication that I'm going to have any problem with this. So I decided not to empty out after I got to the bottom of the hill. I turned around and I carried on. I went back up again and got up to the top and started turning round, and I definitely felt that combine leaning over, and the difference in the weight that was in the tank, and that sort of gives you a moment where you're like, ooh, have I misjudged this? Have I potentially misjudged the situation here? You get that kind of just that sensation in your gut. Like, you feel the machine do something. When you've been driving a machine for a long time, you feel it do something that's out of the ordinary, and you're like, ooh, right, that wasn't right. That definitely wasn't right. And as I went and turned round, I felt it. I felt that combine just leaning over to the side a little bit, and I felt the wheel there, the tire, I felt that one compressing, and it leaned over a little bit more. And the bit that was slightly alarming is that as the combine... Let's have a look and see if we can see in here. I don't know if it'll let you see. Because... Right. Can you see that little auger that's coming up there? The grain comes up out of the belly of the combine. It comes up and it goes around that auger there. And so it basically forms into a bit of a pyramid in the middle. So it had formed that little bit of a pyramid of grain in there, and then as we went over and I was sort of leaning over this way and the tire compressed slightly with the extra weight, it meant the combine tilted over a little bit more. The top of the little pile of grain that was in the tank, I mean, it's a fair bit, it leaned, the grain moved as well, and that sort of moved against that side of the combine, which pushed it over a little bit more. And so your combine sort of just judders over to the side a bit, and it wasn't enough to go to tip it over, but as I was turning round, I felt it all move, and I felt the grain, I felt the tire compress, then I felt the grain move, and I was like, ooh, wait, I may have made a mistake here. This could potentially be something going wrong. And so I was like, you know, you get that little adrenaline rush, and like I'm focusing, really focusing, and I'm like, right, I got to be a little bit careful now, So I was going slower than I would normally going down the hill, and that's when it really started to sort of cause some issues, because what I didn't realize because I was inexperienced with driving a combine, is that the combine itself, the tires, again, that they were the undoing. Now, I'm going to try and explain this. I should be doing some work while I'm explaining this. But basically, you can see these massive, great big flotation tires, yeah? They're huge, and the combine I was driving was a lot bigger. Those tires were a lot bigger, so they absorb quite a lot. But if you're coming down a hill with a bit of weight in the combine, what happens is the tire compresses slightly, and if you go over a little bit of a bump, the tire will compress, but then it will push back up again. But of course, then you're up a little bit higher than you would normally be. You've gone on a bit further forward, and then the weight of the combine sort of comes back down on it. And very, very quickly, with very little warning, I can promise you, you get to a stage where your combine is starting to bounce like this. And that's the point where I really started to question whether or not I was going to get down to the bottom of the hill. It started bouncing. I literally just started bouncing down the hill. And I wasn't sure how to deal with it, so I kind of just rode it out. I made sure the combine stayed straight, and I did the only thing that I know how to do. The only thing that I know to do when you're encountering difficulty or sliding or something unusual is going on a hill, you do not brake. You don't try to slow down. So I didn't brake. I didn't try to slow down, because all that's going to do is going to put all that weight forward and it's going to make you sort of tilt up. I shot forwards, accelerate. So I dug the wheels in and I accelerated hard down the hill, and it sort of stopped the bouncing a bit, and I went down the hill, and everything was all right. There was another person down there who seen it happen. This was quite late at night, and he seen the lights jumping up and down a bit as I went down the hill. And he come over and he said, "You didn't empty out at the bottom of the hill, did you?" I said, No, I didn't. Yeah, it was my fault. It was a bit stupid there. He said, "Next time that happens, don't worry about the combine and don't worry about the header, because it will be fine." He said, "Just push the header down onto the ground. It will stop the bouncing." It would have been a lot easier than my option, which was to fly off down to the bottom, because then I had to go and like tidy it up a bit. And he said, just make sure that you cut in a straight line going up, and just sort of get it right, and then there shouldn't be anything left over, because the manager, if he'd seen it, he would have flipped his lid and I'd have been in a lot of trouble. But fortunately, the manager never actually found out about that, and the guy that I was with, he wasn't the foreman. He was another person there who had a lot of say in how the farm was run. Complicated. It was complicated sort of politics thing, but yeah, he had my back on that one, which was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I learned my lesson on that one. Don't take things for granted. Don't take too many chances. I don't even know how I started talking about that. I was talking about picking up bales. Oh yeah, hill work. That's how we got to that. Anyway, that's what happened with my combine, and so I've had a lot of experience doing work on hills and steep ground, and I've never lost my enjoyment of doing that. Driving a tractor across a field now is not something I do very often, so I enjoy doing it. You know, I like getting into a tractor and having a little bit of a drive, right? That's fun. But getting into a tractor and having to do a difficult task, well, any machine, getting into any kind of machine and having to do a difficult task, I actually really enjoy that. It's still a challenge. I still love to do it, and you've got to be aware of so many more things that are going on, and it just makes it more interesting. And I've never lost my love of doing that, and that was one of the things that I loved about farming, was having that challenge. Unfortunately, though, a lot of farming isn't about that. You get those little bits turn up every now and then, the bits that you really, really love, but there was so much more that was less good. And so, for various reasons, I did end up sort of moving away from agriculture, which I don't think it was I didn't make a wrong decision doing that, but at the same time, some days you miss it. There's some things that you miss. I would like to be able to go back and do some of these things again, but for the most part, I'm content with just having the memories of having done them. And you know what? I've had enough of it. I've had enough of it. I've gone past. I've gone past this enough times, and it's really starting to bug me on construction. Right. I said that I wasn't going to, because I've gone past it like so many times, but there's a little bit there. And this is just from when the map is made. That needs to go to there. There, see? Just that stubble that is out on the side. There's another couple of them, I'm sure. There is another one. Right. I keep seeing these. I thought I got all of them around the field, and now they're just really irritating me today. So we're just going to have a little check. Make sure that they're all gone. I knew there was another one down here. There. I think that's it. Right, okay. As you were. So yeah, there's things that I do miss, and like the challenge of operating machinery in difficult conditions is definitely top of the list for things that I miss when it comes to farming and a lot of other jobs as well, really. That was always the main aspect of it that I really that I personally loved more than anything else was that challenge. It was always something that I relished. If there was going to be difficult work, and that was what I particularly liked about the large estate that I worked on, was that the majority of the people there didn't like hill work, whereas I did. I made it absolutely clear that... What does he do? What? Seriously, why go flying forward and smash into a tree? What? What are you even thinking? Yeah? Your brains are in your mutton chops. That's what's going... I don't know what's going on there. It looks like he's... It looks like he's put his facial hair on with a permanent marker. That is freaky looking. Alright, I'm just going to step away from there. That is, it's supposed to be either myself or Leia driving, but unless Sen got creative with a Sharpie in the night, that ain't me. Right, I'm stepping away from that for a minute. Right, 4,000 euros. What else are we going to do? He's going down there because he's getting ready to go and plant some oilseed radish. Now, the field there has got canola in it, and we're going to be doing corn in that field next. So that doesn't actually need to be planted until spring. And I just remembered... This one doesn't need to be planted until spring. However, the big field does need to be planted. That one we had barley in it, and it's going to be canola in it next. Let's go through here. This one's going to have canola in it next, and the canola has got to be planted fairly soon. We're in July at the moment. We've got to get 2 crops of oilseed radish in here before we can do the planting. And if you have a look in our little timetable thingy majiggy here, we plant in July. We have to get this field planted now, and then we've got to get the next lot planted in August so that we can get the final bit of canola planted in September. Like, we have a very short window for this. This job has to be done in this field this month. So we're just going to have to find other things to do working around this one. And we can sort of see what's going on. Right. While you go whizzing on up through here, I've had people talking about, you know, the whole random events thing that we're doing. Some of you like it, some of you don't. And I quite like it. I'm quite pleased to sort of have that back and doing it. several of you sort of questioning the balance of things, so I've just made a couple of little adjustments. A lot of you really didn't like the idea of me loaning money to a friend. I don't get this. I really don't. I'm genuinely confused as to why you think that helping out a friend who's in financial difficulty is a bad thing. A lot of you saying that you would never ask a friend for help if you were in trouble, and you thought that it might be difficult for them to help you. I still go by my same argument that if I had a friend who literally lost their house because they needed money, and I had any way that I could have helped them, and they just refused to come and tell me about it, I'd be really upset with that. I would be genuinely upset with that. Like, people are friends for a reason, yeah? You're friends because you like a person. You want to help them out. You want to do what you can to help people. And I just can't get my head around the idea of, well, no, I'm not going to help this person. Because I wouldn't ask them for help if I was in that situation. If they found out that you were in that situation and they're a good friend of yours, they would do what they could to help you. And this is something that we could probably discuss and argue about for a long time, and I'm sure there's all kinds of nuances to this entire thing, but I think this is one of those situations where some of us are just going to have to agree to disagree, because there is no way that I would be happy with any part of the situation if someone I knew and cared about was in a situation where they potentially faced losing their home, and I could have done something about it and didn't, regardless of the situation, right? And that's what it comes down to. That's what that one was supposed to be about. But it seems to be touching on some raw nerves. It seems to be upsetting some people. I'm not going to agree with some of the statements that have been made. And so I'm removing that one so that we don't have any further potentially heading towards heated debates. So I'm taking that one out for that reason. So we're all just going to have to agree to disagree on this one, and we'll leave it at that. I respect your opinions. It's all been politely put forward, and thank you for that. And we will move on, and we can talk about something else. The other one that I'm removing is I said a vehicle, a major breakdown on a vehicle, which essentially it's such a bad breakdown that I said in order to represent it in a game, we would take a random piece of machinery, sell it to the dealership, and then buy it back, because we know there's quite a financial hit if we go and do that. Actually, if I go and take this one down here, I should be able to set my help going from this side. There's quite a financial hit if you go and do that. So that I sort of figured would represent the loss of the cost of fixing the machine. But it does. Some of you have pointed out that this seems a little bit punishing. Like we're already struggling for money in this series, and that seems a little bit extreme. I did say that perhaps we wouldn't do it with the tractors or the combine, because that would be even more extreme. But I've decided, in the interests of balance and also to allow us to at least progress a little bit, just to remove that one. So at the moment we've got there's a sick animals one where we lose 10% of our animals plus another well, I roll a d20, and then that's percentage-wise we add in a little bit more. So we could potentially lose 30% of our animals from one of the pets. But that's just to be worked out. So that's probably the worst one. We got the sick worker. We've already experienced that one, where Senleia was ill. So for the first month of the season, we only are allowed to have one worker, which means that we're only allowed to have one person working. So if I've got someone working in the field when that happens, I can't go and do something myself because we've only got one. So at the moment I can, and I will be in a minute, going to go and get another vehicle, and we'll do some more work in field here. The pressure washer breaks down. That is purely aesthetic thing. We're just going to have dirty machinery for a season, and I will keep that one for a whole season. We have a minor breakdown on a vehicle. Now, this doesn't actually cost us any money. This one is one that ends up just meaning that we can't use a machine for 1, 2, or 3 months, and that will be determined by another dice roll. So we could end up at the beginning of summer having a vehicle minor breakdown, which turns out to be a little bit more than a minor breakdown, and we can't use the combine for the summer. If we're in that situation, we will be able to lease another combine in order to do it. Basically, we're borrowing a combine from a neighbor, and that's well, we're giving them a little bit of financial compensation or something, because this is supposed to be no leasing. But I'm not just going to not harvest the crops, right? We're not going to be in a situation where we just don't harvest the crops, but we could potentially lose our combine for a summer on that one. So there is risk on these. And then I've got some positive ones, which is we can win the lottery, and that is a D12 roll and then times 1,000. So we've got the potential to win up to 12,000 euros on the lottery. And I've even gone and prepared a mod that will allow us to put that money into the game. Basically, what I did was I went into here and went to production, generators. There, right, we've got that one. Now, that says 24,000 per month, the municipal subsidy. That one says 240,000 per month for the government subsidy. That's not actually the case. I've changed the numbers a little bit, so they give a lot less than that. I didn't change these numbers because that's in a different XML file, and I already know what these mean, and I've never used this before, and I don't use it for anything else, so it didn't matter. Now, the government subsidy will give 10,000 euros per hour, and the municipal subsidy will give 1,000 euros per hour. So just pop that one out, we'll leave it there for an hour, and we get 1,000. Or I pop the other one out, leave it for an hour, we get 10 grand, and so there I can make up the amount of money that we want. So that's what I did with that. So that's winning the lottery. We have a friend loans us 5,000 euros. Unfortunately, folks, that is all we have got time for today. A massive thank you to everybody who has earned their way into the Great Book of Names. To find out some more details about all the names coming past, please head into the description and click on the link to the Discord. It's a link to another video. The link is on the other video. Please also consider checking out the links there for Nitrado, who provide gaming servers for games like Farming Simulator, Minecraft, Ark, and several others. And there's also Fanatical, who will help support your gaming habit by providing you with cheap games and also giving me a small commission on anything that you buy using my link. If you've enjoyed this particular video, then please head down below and give us a like. And if you really enjoyed it, then please tell your friends all about me. Get them to come and watch as well. That would be awesome. And until next time, thank you very much for watching. This is Frithgar. Goodbye, and see you later.